Hello everyone, so this is the weekly explanation videos of the week of June 15th, I believe. So this is our first position, it's on black to move. And okay, let's first take in the material count. Well, obviously black is down in exchange. Black has a rook for the knight, but you see that white king is a bit weak here. A bit airy. Black is a dark square bishop, which means you should be able to attack on the dark squares. Okay, so let's start again with checks and captures. Well, in this position, there's only one check and capture, and that's queen takes h2. And okay, let's check it. If queen takes h2, what happens? Well, white will take. What can we do? Maybe knight g3. Knight g3, king g1. And okay, if we continue line, so that if we have the bishop, if we play bishop b6, it'll be mate. The only problem is white will take this bishop with his queen. So this is pretty much forced. So let's go back to the starting position. Now that we know that the white queen is tethered to the b6 square, it has to protect b6. Do we have a move to, let's say, deflect this queen from b1? So what comes to mind here? Well, we need our queen, knight, and bishop in this combination. But we haven't rook. What can we do with this rook? We can try rook b5, but the problem is he just takes rook and he still protects the b6 square. How about rook a1? And when we see this move, but just by logical thinking, see that black is actually just winning. If white takes rook, we already know what to do. We take h2, we play knight g3, play bishop b6, and it'll be checkmate. This is a typical pattern, the knight and bishop combined to checkmate. What else can white do? His queen's under attack, and not only is it under attack, but this rook also skewers the e1 rook. So if white wants to move his queen, he needs to protect the e1 rook as well. So how about queen e4? This is actually a pretty good try, because black should not be hasty and do this same combination, because suddenly it doesn't work after this typical idea. White has this move queen d4, and black will not be checkmating white. For example, if black should take on d4 first. Okay, if you take on e1, then white will take king f2, or you take on d4 first, take on e1, king f2, and okay, material's about even. Black's on pawn, but I'm attacking one of the pieces. Let's say black plays rook b1, then white will take the knight, white takes bishop, white takes pawn, and we have equal pawn, an equal number of pawns in a rook and pawn angle, which is a simple draw. So we should not fall for this trap after queen e4. Once again, now we have to think again. We cannot play this because I can just pick up the knight, or he can play king g1, bishop b6, and you have queen f2. So we don't have the same combination after queen e4. But what can we do? Well, again, we know this because of these two pawns, white has a weak first rank. So the typical idea is queen d1, and yes, and it does work here. White just simply wins. White is no defense. There's no way to protect the rook. For example, you take, I take, queen 1, rook takes one's mate. So yeah, this is just an extra idea you need to see. But once again, to solve this puzzle, you need to have the main idea. You can get to this by logically working backwards. So you see this idea, the white queens protecting b6. So you work backward. Maybe on the first move, how can you distract this queen? And by using this logic, you can find rook a1, which is a beautiful shot to win the game. I believe our second position is one. I believe it's this position. It's black to move. So once again, we should notice some things about the position. First of all, the material count. Black is down a piece. He only has a bishop and a pawn for the two knights. But we see the white king is stopped. It's very weak. There's some back rank problems. There could be a potential mate on g2. And what the white queen is very far away from the white king. So which means that black's chances of a successful attack on the king is greatly increased because the queen is very far from defending the white king. So we should again, start with checks and captures. What can we do here? Well, unfortunately, none of these checks on the back rank win because it has everything covered. What else? Obviously, if we capture this for this knight would just recapture. So that doesn't work either. An interesting move though is queen takes f2. We notice after takes, rook e2 check. If king g1, then f2 is suddenly checkmate. But white can take. And okay, the white king is open, but you have no follow-up. Once again, let's work backward here. Black has a brilliant win based on this idea. So we notice that the white king escapes in this position. Because bishop g4 check doesn't work, white will just capture. So let's improve on this idea. Well, is it possible to play the move h5? Is it good? h5. Well, once we start considering this move, we can already see that it's actually a brilliant move that just wins for black on the spot. For example, if white plays queen a1, let's say bring his queen back into the defense, then this combination works. We have queen takes f2, rook e2. As we said before, king g1 is met by f2 mate. And if king takes f3, now with the pawn h5, which is why we played h5, we have moved bishop g4 check, king f4, and bishop h6. And a picturesque checkmate in the middle of the board. So h5 is suddenly occurs at h5 as it looks like an unstoppable threat, like the deadly queen takes f2 is threatening, and what can white do? Well, it's actually difficult to say what white can do because the bishop is stuck on h1. If you take my pawn, I'm just taking your bishop and I'm mating you on g2. Bishop can't do anything. Your rook is tied down to the back rank, so it can't do anything. The knight has to protect e1 to the back rank. This knight has to protect these two pieces. And the white queen is so far away that it can't help. So white actually really has no good defense. Maybe the best move for white is g4. The point is to give some air to the white king for square and g3. But this doesn't help either. Black just takes. But now that white gave up this pawn, he's also opened his king. So okay, queen takes f2 doesn't work now, but we'll just make him easy. For example, queen a1, bring his queen back to defend, then bishop e5. Newly open diagonal, we're just going to sack on h2, take an f2, and the game's over. Once again, this position's another great example of how we can find brilliant moves just through logical thinking and working backwards in retrograde analysis, where we see this position it doesn't work. Maybe on the first move we can improve our idea, and then it actually does work. It's a beautiful checkmate on f4. So let's move to the next position. This position. Okay, so we have to look at the material count. White's up in exchange. So rook for bishop. But okay, we'll see a few things here. Knight on d2 is hanging. Rook on d6 hanging, and the queen is hanging on d5 as well. So we have 3 pieces under attack, but we are up in exchange. How can we solve this problem creatively? So let's think about checks and captures. We take on e7, then black recaptures twice, and we just have equal material. So that doesn't help us. Well, again, let's start. The most important thing, the highest priority for white in this position is the queen that's hanging on d5. Like all the rooks hanging, the knight's hanging, but most importantly, our queen is hanging. So we should find some ways to get our queen out danger. So we already talked about this, but here black regains material equality. And what other ways can we save our queen? So the knight's attacking it, and we already talked about removing the knight. So the only other way, we have to move this queen somewhere. Queen d6. It's a clever move because black queen's attacked, and if he takes, then we take, and we're up in exchange. But unfortunately, our knight on d2 is hanging. So this doesn't work. How else can we move our queen? Well, we have to move our queen somewhere. We can't just play some quiet move like queen c4 because both our pieces are still hanging. So we have to make a threat with our queen move. Queen b7 comes to mind. Trying to exchange this queen, we're removing the defender of e7. But unfortunately, he's taking a rook. And this knight is still hanging as well. I think by process of elimination, where we go like, where we think, okay, queen b7 doesn't work, queen d6 doesn't work, queen c4 doesn't work, we'll eventually find that the move queen a8 does work. Eventually, we'll just run out of moves, and we'll find that, and we'll stumble upon this move and find that it does work. Well, it's a pretty logical idea because we deflect this rook from e8 because it's protecting e7. If we take on e7, then we're forcing the king and the queen. So queen 8, that's actually wins for. If he takes a rook, then we take this rook and still up in exchange because bishop takes d2, then rook takes e6, then rook takes e6, and then white's up in exchange. And hold on a second. Sorry for the interruption. So now this is our position after queen 8, and as we said, queen 8, yeah, bishop takes e6, queen takes e, bishop takes e2, rook takes e6, white's on exchange. King f7. It's a pretty good try because protects his rook, protects his knight, and still three things are hanging, but white has this deflection, rook takes f6, deflecting the king, protecting the rook, king takes f6, queen takes e8, and bishop takes d2, otherwise it's down exchange. Queen f8 check and we'll win the e7 knight. Queen 8, so black is nothing bad, but rook takes 8, rook takes e7, queen takes, rook takes e7, king f8, rook takes h7, and everything works out in one's favor because bishop's hanging as well as his rook's hanging. So white simply wins. This one has some difficulty. I guess the most logical way to solve it is just looking at priorities. The queen is hanging, so we have to get it out of game somehow, and by eliminating other wrong moves, we could find queen 8. Unfortunately, which allows white to just simply begin. Is this one. In material counts, white has rook and 3 pawns for 2 minor pieces, but black's in deep trouble because you can see our king is way out on a6. There's threats like b5. And there's no real way to reach the white king at the moment because 93 is covered by the rooks. And again, black has to be creative to find a way out of this. I guess when one side isn't pretty much looks like a losing position, should should be desperate. So black is lost here, so black should be desperate and basically consider every single legal move to hopefully find a way out of this. Checks don't work for black. Capturing doesn't work because the white king will just find shelter. So there's no real good way to solve this logically. I guess we would just have to check every single legal move if it has a point, or you can see that most of black's pawns are blockaded, so there's a chance for stalemate. But again, it's hard to believe it. Yeah, there's no real easy way to explain how to solve this logically. Anyway, the black should play b6 because we cut the pin back in between. Okay, white has to take the bishop with queen. 66 is not good because black is 93, the rook's been deflected. So white takes on c6 and looks like black's last move had no point, but now here comes the cold shot for black is 93. White has to take it, otherwise white can play king f2, but obviously not good. Black is 94, queen d2 mating. White has to take. And now black simply sacks his queen like queen f1. After takes, we have a nice stalemate. Black's down the queen and the rook and 3 pawns, but this is draw. I'm not sure how you'd solve this easily. I guess you just have to check every single legal move, maybe. Not really sure for this one. Have this position. And we should take everything in. Well, first we know material is equal, but the black king, a lot of holes around the black king that, say, if we could get our knight to f6, would be very juicy. Black queen is passive because it's tied down to the weak king. But at the moment, black has been doing a good job of keeping the king side closed. It's not easy to break through. So, there's no good checks or captures here. But we do know that since the queen is on the king side, means that the queen side is very weak. So if we can switch sides, switch from the king side where our forces are concentrated to the queen side, then we can basically crash through because the black queen is nowhere near on the queen side. So how can we do that? Most natural is queen c1. Queen c1. We're penetrating on the C file, taking advantage of the passive black queen. Then everything is good because it looks good because if knight e7, then we have queen c7. Then we just simply winning here because we flip it with black pieces. At least pick a pawn as well. Black can make bossy. But the main issue is that black can take on d4. So when we see this problem, we shouldn't stop and try to overcome resistance in my calculation. Queen c1, knight takes d4. Let's continue along. Our king is in check, we have to move our king. So I think most logical is king d3. You don't want to move it to d3 because black takes the pawn check. King d3. We get off check and we attack the knight. And we notice the knight is actually trapped in the middle of the board. It has no squares. But black does have queen takes e5. And again, let's continue our calculation. And I believe should be able to recognize the pattern here. The killer blow for white here is queen c8 check, queen g7, queen h8 check. Deflection, forcing the black into fork. We kept pick up a pawn on the way to the queen trade. Not only that, but after we trade, knight's trapped in the middle of the board and we win easily. So this one is not so easy to find logically, I guess. Well, I think queen c1 is a pretty logical move. King d3 is logical. After queen takes e5, if you can recognize this typical pattern with queen h8, because this is pretty, it happens pretty often, especially in tactics books. Then you should be able to spot this pretty quickly. But if not, then I guess it'll be pretty hard to find this because finding this by brute force takes a very long time. So I guess we should start with this most natural move and then try to overcome resistance and calculate it. Hopefully, eventually, you found this. And we win the knight and then we have the board. Position is position. White to play. Well, And let's think. Well, first of all, we're down a piece in the pawn. But again, that shouldn't matter that much. We have 4 attacking pieces here. Obviously, we have a queen and a rook, which is very dangerous. Our pawn helps in attack as well. But we should not forget, the king is an attacking piece too. Like, white actually has a lot of pieces in attack. And notice, again, the black queen is kind of sidelined here, far from action. And the rook is kind of far as well. So white should have a way of taking advantage of the wide open black king on g7. In the game, white didn't find the win, and white played king f5 check. Black took the rook, and white gave a perpetual and nearly draw. Like this. For example, like this, and then played a perpetual and a draw. But okay, one thing we should notice here is that black has a very, very big threat here. For example, you might think queen e4 wins because you simply bring the rook with the queen in. But black queen's not completely out of play. Black has a shot, queen takes d5 with check on a king. Forced to take. Now he pins our queen, rook c5. And okay, first if you take, let's say black takes back with the d pawn. D pawn's also possible, but the thing is that black's at least not worse here because he has a bishop and 2 pawns for the rook, and black actually might be close to winning because pawns are just running one world. So that's the problem here. Black has a threat, which is queen takes d5, and it's not easy to untangle our pieces here. I guess how would you go about this? Well, let's think about it this way. If we want to win, our king can't move because our rook is hanging, and the most we have is a perpetual in the king. Anywhere our queen moves, then he takes on d5. He has at least queen takes d5 in the same rook c5 idea. And okay, moving the a pawn doesn't help, so using this logical thinking, we narrowed our options down to moving the rook. Well, we can't go either any of the squares here, because obviously it just takes it. And if we move it back anywhere here, then again he has at least queen takes d5. Then I guess you would go by process of eliminating every move, which is wrong, and you finally move rook h8, which is a spectacular blow, rook h8. Obviously, the most obvious point is if he goes for this, the same, I don't know, trick. The problem for black is now that this bishop is hanging, so white just ends up with the extra rook and wins. What else? King takes h. Let's say he takes rook. Again, as I mentioned before, the king is an attacking piece, and you simply play king h6 and remaining him. As we see, these pieces are far away from the king, so black simply has no defense against me. An interesting try for black is bishop g6. I guess he's renewing the same queen d5 threat, and maybe wants to take on h8 at some point as well. But queen d5 is again the threat. But in this situation, we should continue with the same thing, which is rook g8, check. Okay, black has to take, and both king takes g6 or king h6 win. Again, we see black's major pieces aren't helping. Our king and our queen just simply check it back. So it's pretty easy. Rook g8. Yeah, rook h8 is also kind of in a way a deflection because we allow our king to come in, give below the move. The last try for black is maybe rook c2, deflecting the queen. but white simply plays queen h1 or mating on h5. Let's say he tries bishop h5. Just be careful to take with the rook because our queen has to guard d5. And black has no defense against mate. To solve this puzzle, we first have to notice black's queen takes d5 threat. This is the most important step. And then from there we can narrow down our moves and find rook h8, allowing our king to come in, which is aesthetically pleasing. And I think our last position is this position. Yes, I believe it should be this position. Hold on a second. Yeah, I think it's this position. It's black to move. And okay, we're up a piece, but he has 3 pawns for 3 pawns. He's up 3 pawns, and he knows that both kings are unsafe because we have many pieces gathered around his king, but our king is on b4 and he can easily receive some kind of check, which would be very disturbing. So we don't have any real good checks and captures. White currently has everything covered. Very tempting to move king a3. we're using our king again to checkmate him, but he has this check mode 6, which is unfortunate. So his rook needs to guard d2. Because of knight d2, he needs to have access to a6 against king a3. His queen needs to guard c1 and d2, knight d2 and queen c1. And yeah, so we see the common square that white has to guard is d2. So can we do anything to, let's say, overload his pieces and disrupt his coordination? Using this logic, I think we can find a beautiful shot knight d5. So what does this move do? Well, obviously we cut the communication between the king and the queen and the rook. And we're threatening knight d2 since the rook is now not guarding d2. So what can white play? First of all, let's say takes, then black has knight d2 as we said. And rook takes d5. Well, now the rook's not guard, doesn't have access to the 8th house, so we have king a3. Simple. And we're mating on b2 because king supports the 3. White can't, if he takes with the queen, then we have queen c1 mate. White can try knight f1, protecting d2 via the knight, but you see his pieces are so passive. Black has many winning moves here. Knight f4 wins. Even knight e1 with idea knight c2 to a3 or knight d3 and queen c1 and queen d2 wins pretty easily. Knight d4 also wins. Many moves win because white simply busted here because in addition to all the ideas back still is king e3. Knight d5, brilliant shot in the game. White tried a3. There's nothing you can really do. White took. rook a6 check. This was White's idea, but came before. Sent it back, and now, okay, a nice game, but we still have this knight d2 idea. So White played rook a2. Once again, there's nothing better. Black played knight 3. You cannot take because we've made on c1. So White played queen d6 check. Black bought rook c5. Mate is still threatened. White tried rook e2. Okay, but Black ended the game with queen c1, king a2, knight d1. And the final knight c3 is coming, so White responds here. So I guess solving this position, we should first notice how tightly loaded White's pieces are. Like Black has many threats: King A3, Knight D2, Queen C1, many potential ideas, but White is hanging on it by a thread with the Queen in the rook. So once we see this, we just have to find some creative way to disrupt this balance, and I think should be able to find this 55. It's a distraction for the queen and the rook. The most beautiful action is rook takes king a3. And White's rook has no access to the a5. Yeah, so I think this was all for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed, and please join me again for next week's selection of puzzles. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.